The chair will call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Education, CUSD 201, today, July 24th, 2012. Roll call, please, Mrs. McMahon.
Mr. Armstrong?
Here.
Ms. Caparelli? Mr. Charleston?
Here.
Mrs. Charlton?
Here.
Mrs. Hancock? Mr. Price?
Here.
Mrs. Thomas?
Here. If everyone could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is a Secretary Pro Tem motion. The chair will entertain a motion to appoint Gary Armstrong, Secretary Pro Tem, for the July 24th, 2012 regular meeting of the Board of Education due to the absence of Mary Kay Caparelli.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, thank you, Gary.
Start right.
The next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the June 26, 2012 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the first closed session of the June 26, 2012 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the second closed session of the June 26, 2012 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I would imagine that there aren't any public comments tonight, so. Okay, consent agenda. Does anybody have? Anything in there?
Nope.
I just have a couple of questions. I would like to say thank you for providing us this information about the playground at South School. This looks like this is some wonderful equipment for the 3 to 5 year-olds. So it's nice to see that will be going. It looks very nice. No, I didn't have a question. I just wanted to say that. So, did anybody have anything else? Okay, then the chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Number 1, personnel recommendations. 2, policy second reading and adoption. 3, approval of Athletico trainer contract. 4, approval of energy contract. 5, resolution to abate working cash fund. 6, approval of July 2012 expenditure report. And 7, ratification of June 2012 regular payroll.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please, Mrs. McMahon.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mr. Charleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
So now that I read that, I realize it's not in the consent agenda. All right. Somebody was going to not tell me that? You were just going to look at me? Okay. All right. Well, I'll hold that. The next item is an action item, approval of tentative 2012-2013 budget.
Great. The tentative 2012-13 budget, you have that information in your packet. We have total revenues, including $5 million of bond proceeds from the 2012 working cash bond sale of just over $30.6 million. And of that, property taxes amount to a little bit over $21 million. Other local sources are $1.5 million. State sources are $2 million. Federal, about $1.1 million. And property taxes, again, make up the largest portion of the district's revenue at about 82% this year, and that's excluding the bond sales. If you include the bond sale revenue, bond sales were the proceeds are about 16% of our overall revenues for the year. Revenue assumptions, they're based on a CPI of 1.5% for the 2011 levy and 3% for the 2012 levy. Again, interest rates are at historic lows. We do have a decrease in general state aid to 89% of what we should be getting, and that the state just made that adjustment about a week ago. And we're also have a decrease in our early childhood block grant of about $12,000. And right now our Title I revenue is lower than last year as well. And they usually typically make adjustments to that. So we may see that increase, but that may be, we won't know that potentially until after the final budget has been prepared.
Can we ask questions as we go along, or would you rather wait?
It's fine.
Okay. When you say the state aid's down 89%, is that from
No, it's
last year?
prorated to 89% of
Okay.
what we should get.
Okay, got it, thank you.
Okay. The expenditures, total expenditures are a little over $31 million. Salaries are about 14.5%, and they make up 55% of our budget when we exclude our capital projects.
14.5 million
14.5, what did I say?
percent.
Oh, yeah, 14.5 million, 55%, sorry. Benefits are about $3.1 million, purchase services, $2.9 million, supplies, $1.9 million, capital outlay, we're estimating at right around $5 million, and that's for projects that we're doing this summer as well as anticipated expenditures for next year, and we'll have a better handle on that in the next month. And tuition and other objects are $3.5 million, and then we've got termination benefits of about $100,000 and non-capitalized equipment of $142,000. And again, expenditure assumptions, we have our medical insurance increase at 0.65% for the majority of this year, and then 10% thereafter. Transportation fund contract increase of about 3.6%, and the additional route for South School, and our expenditures are based on strategic initiatives. So revenue projections are conservative. Expenditures align with strategic goals, and expenditures are presented, at, the expectation that people are going to be utilizing all the funds allocated to them for the year. So in the operating funds, and if you look at the fund balance summary, I changed it a little bit from the prior year. I included operations and maintenance, the impact fund with that, because that's how it's budgeted on the state budget report. And then I also moved the IMRF and Social Security funds up to the operating fund so that we align with the PMA model. So total operating funds, we're projecting an ending balance of a little over $13 million. We've got an operating deficit of about $296,000. This is a little bit better than what was in the PMA model. And I also included the transfers in and out so you can see what the impact that's having. In the past, we put those in the revenues and expenditures, but it's easier to track them separately. And then in the restricted funds, we have the insurance fund, bond and interest, capital projects, and again, for right now, we're assuming expenditures of $5 million at this point in time, but we'll modify that for the final budget. And working cash and life safety, so total restricted fund balance, $2.5 million, so total fund balance of about $15.6 million, and overall deficit of about $587,000, and again, that includes our working cash expenditures. Does anyone have questions?
I had a couple.
Okay.
On page 8, number 203, Title I. We had talked before about, is that based on just one school? And would that go up? Wasn't there some talk that, I know you just said that we're going to be getting less money for Title I, but is that, remember we had some discussion before about if that's going to involve like the junior high?
Yeah, we're working on that program to incorporate other schools. We're working on having Miller be a school-wide Title I school. And then based on the numbers, the junior high and maybe the high school may qualify as Title I schools. But then and we have to work on what that program's gonna look like there.
So just because I try to get my head around it, and so is that based on a school, and is it a certain amount of money, or do we just get a flat amount of money? Or could you explain that just a little bit?
It is based on the enrollment in school and the percent of students that qualify. That's what it's based on. Once I believe it's 40%. Once a school more than 1 year in a row has over 40% that are qualified for free and reduced, then you can go for a building-wide model, which allows you greater flexibility how you utilize the funds.
Okay.
The junior high and the high school are not at that point yet. So we're looking at what we can do with Miller. As you qualify more students, the funding can change, but then also what occurred this year with the state is actually cutting back on dollars. So even though we're qualifying more students, we're receiving less revenue.
So do you receive money for each building or just as a percentage?
No, it's an allocation.
An allocation, okay.
And then we can use those funds for, training of staff and providing resources to students in those buildings that qualify.
Okay. Then I had another question. On page 12, number 78. And maybe this isn't the right place, or maybe number 85. If we, there was some talk that as we expand our early childhood program, that we would pay less in tuition because we could take care of a number of students in-house. Would any of these numbers, and I might be pointing out the wrong spot, but would any of those numbers go down as we go on? I mean, I know that we have to pay.
Yeah, it depends on the students' needs in
Right.
here, and so, it wouldn't for this year, obviously, and that's something that, Linda Clowder would be the better person to ask, again, based on students' IEP needs,
Okay.
and things like that.
Okay.
The fact that you would to add a group of students that were tuition-based doesn't impact the funding. That's solely based on the needs of the students.
She's
and
actually
students that
talking about the
qualify.
expenditures.
I'm talking about
Oh,
Yeah, she
expenditures.
moved to expenditures, and they may, if we can develop a program that can meet the needs of an outplaced student, but again, that would be a question for Linda Clowder.
Okay, but the extra students that we're going to be working with this year, that's first start?
Correct.
Right, okay. And I think I had just one more. No, that was it, thank you. Okay. I like that number, the operating fund deficit as it is right now. Thank you. Okay. Then, no other question? Then the chair will entertain a motion to approve the tentative 2012-2013 budget as presented, and that said budget be available for business and for public inspection in the district's business office from July 12th, 2012 until board adoption on Tuesday, September 25th, 2012.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please, Mrs. McMahon.
Mr. Charleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton? Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Now this sounds kind of deja vu, but the next item is the approval of purchase of playground equipment for South School. So, again, I will say, I think this is very nice. I think this gets all of our elementary schools with compliant equipment.
And this is, what's being purchased here is what you would have to purchase. It's all modular. These are the basic units that you would need. We'll provide enough activity centers for the students we'll be serving. And then as we develop an early childhood center at South, we'll have the ability then to add on additional pieces. Originally, the facility committee asked if it would be possible to maybe modify the existing equipment, maybe add some new pieces. What Mike Mayoros found out is that if you start to touch the current equipment, then all the grandfathers in terms of ADA compliance and safety, all those things kind of go away. And so we thought it was in the best interest of the district then to just remove the old equipment and then purchase a unit that will meet the needs of the student and set us up for the future then. And then the old equipment, and when we talk about the installation, Mike has contacted a company that does take the old equipment, refurbish it, and then actually they ship it overseas to other countries to provide playground equipment for other children. And so he's sent pictures of the equipment. It appears that the company is interested, and so we're just waiting for their. And then there's no cost then to the district, obviously, for the removal.
That's great.
That's very good.
Do we own that playground?
Mm-hmm.
We do? Okay.
Yeah, that's school district.
And it's just that piece of dirt on the corner. Okay.
Yeah.
And in terms of funding it, that's the question, pure question. Like, that impact fee fund, it's got like $38,000 that sits in it. What can it be used for?
I will check to see if.
Because
that's-
theoretically, it's
we could use
for,
that for.
Bricks and mortar.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to buy any land anytime in the near future.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
And maybe we use that impact fee money for some of the other pieces that, renovations that we need to do, even for this year.
yeah, but I mean, my recollection is it has to do with the addition of new students to a
Right.
district, right?
Right.
And so this seems like a sort of a natural fit for those dollars that historically, A, aren't much, and B, just sit there.
Sure.
Right, and it's sat there for the last couple of years. We did receive maybe about 3,000 this year.
Yeah.
But- Okay.
Okay, any other?
No, I'd say this is nice, fits very well with what we've done both at Miller and at Manning, making things ADA compliant. I think that's very important, obviously, for an early childhood center. I'm glad to see it's as much as it is, and we didn't, just do too small of a piece. I think this is a very nice, kind of a compromise structure. And it seems like it's going to have enough activity for kids at that age level. As far as the base, it's going to be the chopped up rubber mulch. It's not a poured surface because you don't want to set anything at this point. Is that correct?
Yeah. Is it
Yeah.
rubber mulch or is it?
I think it's a wood chip.
That's always
I think
wood
it's
chip. Oh, wood
chip
chips,
mulch,
okay.
Yeah.
It is nice to see your information here that this will be incorporated into the long-range plan, so it's not like we're spending money and then respending, so. Okay. Any other questions? The chair will entertain a motion to approve the purchase of playground equipment for South School as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please, Mrs. McMahon?
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mr. Charleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes. The next item is approval of installation costs for South School playground equipment.
So
Mike,
moved. Or is that it?
did you want me to give you a brief?
Go ahead, please. Yes.
Yeah, just
I thought you were
very
saying it.
quickly.
I thought I'm just in a weird place.
Yeah, just very quickly, Mike was able to get 3 bids on the installation of the equipment. This includes the installation, removal of the pea gravel playground surface, and then the installation of wood chips. And the Kenneth Company provided the lowest bid of $9,095. Mike has worked with the Kenneth Company and is confident that we'll be happy with their work. I also included the removal of existing equipment just in case it doesn't work out with the other company, and so you can see those costs. The next lowest was Green Up. They didn't do a breakdown of their costs, $11,769, and then Forte's Systems Landscaping was $11,800. So the recommendation would be to award the bid to the Kenneth Company in the amount of $9,095.
So that removal of existing equipment, is that part of the total cost, or did you pull that out?
That's pulled
Okay,
out. That's a
great.
separate cost.
Okay, great. Any questions? Diane, did you have a question?
No.
Okay, then the chair will, did you? The chair will entertain a motion to approve the installation of the South School playground equipment as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please, Mrs. McMahon.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mr. Charleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is presentation of monthly financial statements.
Okay, we've wrapped up the year, and again, the state continues to be behind in categorical payments. They owe the district $516,000 right now in overall, and during the month of June, we did receive the first installment of the 2011 tax levy, and in the amount of about $10.3 million, which was a 49.5% collection rate, which is slightly higher than the previous 3 years. In the ed and tort funds, the state owes us $312,000, and again, we've been operating under this for the past 2 years. In the transportation fund, they owe us $203,000. We did actually, in the month of July, receive the third categorical payment, so they are a little bit ahead of where they were the prior year and getting some of that backlog out. Expenditures overall in the ed and tort funds are comparable to last year and the prior 3-year average. And in the operations and maintenance fund, expenditures are comparable to the prior year, well below the 3-year average, and that's based on the 2010, where the operations and maintenance fund had to pay some of the working cash capital project expenditures until we made some adjusting entries there. And transportation fund is again comparable to the prior year and the current 3-year average. We'll have a better update on where we are at after the audit. And I've got fund balance summary. We also, as a result of receiving tax revenue, did $4 million of investments this month, and we should be receiving, I think, our next installment of taxes in August. So, does anyone have questions?
What is the general status on people who oppose those? I mean, do any of those, their taxes, did any of those ever pan out? You'd given us that once before.
Yeah, we did settle one recently, and I'll give the board an update on that. It was in the district's favor, so that was good. But a lot of them take a long time.
Okay. I know, because some of them like just reoccur every year.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay, is that everything, Kim? The next item on the agenda is superintendent's report.
With regards to facilities, again, I'm happy to report that all of our projects are either running ahead of schedule or on time. And so that completion date of August 13th looks like it's definitely doable. My understanding is glass was delivered to the high school, so we have actual glass windows that it will be going in. Manning and Miller, they should be completing all the drywall and taping, and so those spaces will be getting ready for paint, carpet, finishing materials, and then the last piece will be the actual furniture. The 2 classrooms at South, we actually had the First Start and Early Childhood program, their desks, chairs, supplies, equipment that they've collected over the years has all come over to South now for the teachers to start getting their classrooms established. The first week of August, the portion of South that will be developed for administrative offices, that work will begin with the abatement, and then shortly after that, actual construction. So at this point, we're in really good shape. We've got posted now on the website some photos of some of the progress that has taken place, and so we'll try to get more updated photos as well as photos from South as well included on that. So very happy with the progress there. With regards to the Climate Committee, we met on July 17th, and right now what we're looking to accomplish this upcoming year is, that committee is working on a Bullying Awareness Week, so finalizing plans for that. Also seeking funding opportunities to support those activities either through grants or other type of fundraisers. Last year at the junior high, if you remember, Amy Quattrone got a student leadership group going, and so now we want to kind of take that model and grow that model into our other schools as well. We'll work on promoting the Bullying Awareness Week. Last year, the junior high created bullying awareness bands, blue and white bands that were worn. And so, again, to raise awareness, continue with that. One of the questions that came up with, obviously, the use of technology and phones, and now with the high school and junior high, we're working on creating a wireless network for those 2 buildings, which down the road, then we can start looking at students bringing their own technology to our buildings. And so the question came up with, again, our handbooks and our policies, and reviewing those and making sure that we're enforcing those policies consistently throughout the district. And so we'll definitely do that. And then the last thing that we want to do is establish our calendar for the year for meetings, and then also data collection. We did some surveying late in the year last year, and so we want to set up benchmarks this year. So as we implement some of these strategies, we want to hopefully see some improvement in the survey results, and also in our other school climate data. So, and our next meeting is Tuesday the 31st at 7 o'clock. They'll be at the high school in the Commons. And then as we move into the school year, one of the things I think I mentioned last spring, and we want to work on, we have several committees, and what we want to do is start maybe scheduling our committees on one evening, so that, number one, you as board members would have the opportunity then to pop in on a couple of different meetings and kind of get up to speed on what's happening. But then also, some of our committees just naturally seem to attract more parents than others. And so this way, at least at the end of the evening, reporting out, we can have a larger target audience, and they can understand what's going on with some of our other committees, and maybe also that'll create some interest on some of these committees. So as we put together that calendar, we want to lock in on an evening where once a month, depending upon the committee, we're coming together, and then again creating hopefully more involvement with our community that way. The last thing I had is a professional learning community update, and we started this process actually May of would have been 11 with a presentation to the board. And then last year we had a committee of teachers and administrators taking a look at visiting different schools, looking at different models. And so we're kind of honing in on ours. And so what we're looking at is on Wednesday afternoons, that seems to be, when you look at athletic calendar and different things, it seems to be the least congested day of the week for us. And having 1 hour early release, the reason why we're looking at early release versus late start, it would be an approximately $40,000 cost, Kim, in transportation. About a $40,000 cost to do the late start. Early release costs the district nothing. So it seems like a logical choice then. And so right now, the calendar that was approved by the board has our SIP days on Thursdays. And so what we'd like to do for consistency for our parents, I'll be bringing an amended calendar to the board where we'll move our SIP days to Wednesday as well. So on a Wednesday, then a parent knows that either it's a 1-hour release or a SIP day. And so that consistently hopefully will help our parents. Unless there's some strong objections this evening, also at registration then, we will have a handout for parents explaining what will be happening this year and what that schedule looks like. And then we'll also start to communicate electronically. We have been doing some electronic communication to our teachers all summer long, so they're aware of what's happening. And then we have a meeting tomorrow morning with our district leadership team to focus on the professional learning community. But and the goal this year, number one, to establish our norms of behavior for our professional learning community as well as accountability. But then also we're going to start to look at student data. Student data will drive our instructional decisions so that we make sure that we're meeting the needs of all of our students. The other piece as well, we will have grade level, it'll be district-wide. So Miller, Manning, kindergarten teachers will be working together, first grade teachers will be working together so that we can assure that the experience in both our buildings will be very similar academically. There will also be opportunities for collaboration between our high school and our junior high. There's a commitment there as well. And then also between elementary and junior high. So we'll be using this time not only for grade level meetings, but also building level articulation. So I think it's going to really help us meet the needs of our students. And I think when we start to look at some of our local assessments as well as our state assessments, we'll start to see improvement as a result of our investment in this time.
Kevin, if I could just make one quick comment, I guess, just so we can all be clear, and I don't just mean us, I mean everybody. If I'm understanding this correct, it's not just that we're going to have these meetings on Wednesdays, we're going to have these meetings on every Wednesday, right? So every Wednesday is going to be some type of early dismissal.
Right, correct.
I have a question regarding that. Because it's every Wednesday. What happens to the afternoon kindergarten and the afternoon preschools? Because they're going to be short, an hour every Wednesday.
Right, and we're looking at a couple options. One is, we're actually, right now, there's a gap of time between morning and afternoon. So we're looking at the possibility of compressing that gap so that it allows us to start the afternoon earlier so that we avoid that. And then another suggestion that I received that we're looking into is the possibility of providing a sub for those programs, which that cost to the district, Kim did a quick, ran some quick numbers, would be about a $3,000 cost to the district if we opt to provide subs so that those students can remain in class. Linda Cloudwater has already looked at IAPs, those types of things for the early childhood program, and there's no concern that we won't be able to meet the needs of the students. She's actually looking at the possibility of 4 days a week, the early childhood program running a little bit longer so that they build up that time that they would be missing on Wednesday. So we're looking at a couple options to make sure. When it was just early, the SIP days, it was easy. We'd flip-flop morning. One time it would be the morning that would meet, the next time the afternoon would meet. But for this, we're looking at some other options so that there's minimal impact to our kindergarten and our early childhood program.
This handout that you gave us, is this the one you're
Right.
thinking about? I think that does sound, yes, to hand it out at registration, since everybody has to come to registration.
Right.
And then if we could get this in everyone's hands, then everybody really knows about it.
We'll put it in everybody's hand, but then also post it electronically.
Right, yeah.
So,
And I'm sorry, Kim, that'll be this week? We'll get that
yes.
out because...
Yes, Thursday. That's
We're
one
certainly
reason
gonna
why we're
wanna know.
meeting tomorrow, is to kind of, any feedback, bring that to the group, and then we'll be ready to go Thursday.
Okay.
Well, just a couple things. I really took a look at some of this information that you supply us on this professional learning community. And I'm excited to hear how this goes and, what you guys come up with as you go along and the data that comes out of it. Because it just really sounds, a couple things that I highlighted, create conditions for perpetual learning. That really sounds like a really, a good goal instead of just, what did I learn today? And so I'm excited to hear how this is going to work. It sounds as though, from your feedback on this, the teachers are embracing all of this, especially with, the different leadership teams in that.
And one of the things that I threw out to the group was, a lot of it has to do with teacher buy-in, and so that we would implement, and then sometime after the first of the year, survey staff, and I had thrown out 80%. The committee was a little bit hesitant to say 80%, but what we want to do is just ask the staff if this is a good investment in time, and we're locking in on that percent, and if it comes back, the number that we want, then that's, that tells us, number one, we're getting the buy-in that we need. Number two, that's worthwhile to consider pursuing. And then also, anyone who is slow to get on board, it makes it that much more difficult to be resistant. So we'll lock in on that percent. I'm confident if we set it high, I'm confident we'll get the response that we would need to go forward, and we'll bring that to the board as well.
And just one other question. I noticed the timeline, and I just kind of wrote a note to myself. You have a note here for planned full staff training and motivation. And I know a question that they talked about at the IASB trainings, you're supposed to always ask, how can the board help? So is there, other than just us saying that this looks like a great program, is there something that you need from us?
I think right now that's the biggest thing, is for the board to say, looks like a worthwhile endeavor. That's what we need at this point.
Okay.
So.
That's great.
One more piece to that is, once it gets rolling and staff are participating, how are we going to communicate what they're doing to the parents so that they understand? Because this is obviously going to throw their schedules off, and they're going to say, well, what are they doing with this time? And I think that's going to be a key piece as you talk about buy-in, that we also give our community and parents enough information about what's happening here so that they have buy-in in this as well, and they don't look at this as an annoyance, but what it's intended to be, improving student achievement.
Two things. One is that we are working on that accountability piece, and so, for instance, minutes kept from each of the grade level meetings. And then also we have a group of teachers that one of their charges is communication. So on a regular basis, they will be communicating to our community how that time is being utilized, and again, hopefully, also reporting some of the positives that are coming out of that time. So we'll be communicating on a regular basis to our parents and to our community how we're using that time.
Okay, very good. This is a kind of a side issue, but I know we talked a little bit at one point about there being maybe some upgrades to our website and that sort of thing. Is that still in the works, or is that delayed, or?
I'll check with Nancy. Last I heard, part of it is a cost issue.
Sure.
And she's still seeing whether or not she can absorb that cost in her budget. But one of the things, though, regardless, what Nancy's looking at is a way that it becomes a little bit more user-friendly, so that at the building level, changes can be made. But regardless of whether we're going to continue with the same process, we are going to make a commitment to updating the website. And I know I even had a conversation with our assistant principal at the high school, Denise Matthews, and she had already, without any prompting, said one of her personal goals is to, at least the high school component, take a look at it, take off information that's that's dated, not relevant, and then make sure that it's upgraded and topical. So, and that's going to be our charge as a district, that we want to make sure that we update that and upgrade that.
Okay.
Can I follow up with something on that? Can I just ask, just because today I finally did my registration. And in conjunction with that is the parent link. And my question, and so if I have it, other people might have it too, maybe, is can you talk about that a little bit? Because is that going to replace blogs or phone calls or emails, or is it just another way? Or how do you see this being it talks about important information for our families. Can
Right.
you talk about that a little bit?
The parent link, I refer to our old program as Auto Dialer. But basically, it's replacing that system where we're able to broadcast out phone calls to our families. The parent link, it's, number one, it's more user-friendly. So again, at the building level, it can be utilized. It has the capability of sending out a phone message, an email, or a text, and then we'll also translate into different languages as well. So within our student database, we indicate which families are English-speaking families, Spanish-speaking, or other language-speaking families. And so then we're able then to send the message out in the family's native language. So that's not going to replace the blogs. The teacher blogs they'll still have the ability to have blogs. This is more communication of important information to families.
Okay. And I did notice today, and I'm glad that kind of Joel brought this up, when when you do the step-by-step procedure, which is actually kind of nice, get rid of a lot of paper, and I'm sure that definitely helps with the registration. But I just wanted to, because I had a couple of phone calls about this. When you go to the place where you blog, you sign up for the blogs, it's probably a good idea to, that needs to be updated too, because there's some teachers on there that were there last year and are not there this year. Or not every teacher blogs.
Right.
So I had a parent say, I was trying to sign up for, something, maybe one of the other classes. And so that, I noticed that was there too. And also, for, let's say, I don't know what teacher my student's gonna have. Once the school year starts, you can go back in and sign up. But there was some, other
Sure,
information
sure,
like
yeah.
that. But okay, great, thank you. That's all I have.
So do you need us to say we like where this is going? I like where this is going.
All right.
Yes.
Yes. And I think
Thank you.
the more we get this in, people's hands, so people start to know that this is what's going to happen. Okay.
That's it.
Okay, are there any board reports?
Well, I guess I'll just mention one quick thing, and I see Mr. Baldwin's here, our high school principal, so I hope I'm not stealing your thunder, but there is a meet and greet tomorrow night. I just want everybody to know that out there, 7 o'clock at Westmont High School Commons to come meet the new principal.
I'll add a little bit about SACID. The June meeting was held at their Highland Hills facility in Lombard, and it was kind of for the purpose of the board to tour that facility. It is their main administrative offices, and I kudos to them for how they use their space, because it's very, very creative. They use it for a lot of storage. They store a lot of equipment there that's used throughout their all the member districts, throughout their programs. And they have a lot of office space there for administrative functions and staff. But the layout and the configuration, their programming is really outgrown it, and they have currently housed in a former school building. So they have in the gymnasium there, they actually have divided that up with rooms that have ceilings in the gymnasium. And then the whole place is a maze of walking around through the creative way that they've tried to meet their needs and utilize that space. So one of the things that SACID is going to be looking at this year is a facilities utilization study to see they're getting to the point where they're outgrowing that space, and also the building codes and those sorts of things are coming into play where it might be more expensive to stay there than to possibly look at some other options, or to see how they can correct some of the deficiencies that they have with air quality and fire code and all those sorts of issues. So they're going to be looking at that this year.
I'd like to use this time to remind everybody that the actual registration, after you've done the online, is at the junior high, not the high school. And the first one is the 26th from 1 to 7. And the second one is the August 8th from 2 to 6.
Anyone else? Okay. Is there any public comment? All right, then the chair will entertain a motion to enter closed session for the purpose of discussing collective bargaining and personnel issues.
So moved?
Second?
Roll call, please.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes?
Mr. Charleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes. And there will not be any votes taken after closed.